everyone, welcome back to day 5 of our bread making challenge, 30-day bread making challenge. Today we are making the #1 favorite sweet bread in our family, which is cinnamon buns. All right, let's jump into the cinnamon buns. Here we go. 2 cups of milk, followed by a 1/4 cup of margarine. This recipe calls for lard, but instead of the 1/4 cup of margarine, I'm going to try a 1/2 cup today, and we'll see how that goes. So I don't have any lard on hand today, but it definitely makes for a good recipe. So I'm going to try to do a 1/2 cup of margarine today. All right, then we're going to do 1 tablespoon of honey. For the honey, I buy it at Costco in the large quantity, so I'm just gonna, I sprayed a little bit of oil in the bottom here of my tablespoon measuring spoon to give me a hand with letting that come out, hopefully pretty easy. All right, so next we're going to do the sugar, and it calls for about a 1/4 cup of sugar. Okay, after that we're going to add in the yeast right into the mixture. For the yeast today, it's 4 teaspoons of yeast, and then also 1/2 tablespoon of salt. This recipe also has 1 egg. Okay, and then we're gonna just give this a little stir. You don't really have to wait for any of the time for the yeast to rise for this recipe, so that's kind of nice. Everything can be all combined together. So these are basically the wet ingredients. Gonna give those a little mix, and then we'll slowly start incorporating the flour. And so that's really it. The thing with yeast spreads, they mix up quickly. They take a little time to knead, but most of the work is waiting for your dough to rise. All right, so now we're gonna add in our flour. This recipe calls for approximately 5 cups of flour. So what I usually do is I add about 1/2 of it right away, give it a stir. So I'll add in 3 cups to start with. And then as I'm kneading, I slowly incorporate that last bit of flour. So cinnamon buns are definitely my kids' #1 favorite yeast bread. I don't actually make them too much. Usually around Easter time we have them, and maybe a couple other times in the year. But these are pretty delicious. And this recipe usually comes out well for me, although I normally do it with lard. So we'll see how it turns out today with the butter, well, margarine rather. I do have a recipe that I will make with rolls that has butter in it, and that is also very good. Maybe we'll try that for day #6. So I'm gonna add in a little bit more flour, and then I'm gonna dump it out, and we're gonna be on to the kneading process. All right, I'm gonna zoom in here and let you guys see the kneading process. So we'll switch over to that. Okay, so our dough is all kneaded up, and what we're gonna do now is I just put it into a bowl that is lightly oiled, and I just coat it in that oil, flip it around a couple times, and it's going to need to rise now for about 45 minutes or until double. So we'll just let this sit on the counter. Okay, so we are back with our dough that is now fully has been fully rising here for about 45 minutes to an hour. And what I've done is mixed up our filling, and this filling is actually also margarine, And I've just creamed the margarine with 1 1/4 cups of brown sugar and about 3 teaspoons of cinnamon. So this makes a nice creamy mixture. We just cream them together. I use the beaters to just quickly mix it up here. And now what I'm going to do is roll out the dough and spread my creamed mixture on the dough. So let's dump out our dough here. I just realized I probably should have a little bit of a flour down, but hopefully it will come up okay for me today. I try to roll it out so that it's in a bit of a square. And then we will spread the mixture all over this dough to make our cinnamon buns. Okay, that looks pretty good. So now I'm just going to put on my filling kind of all over, spread it on there. What I'm going to do is roll this up relatively tight, hopefully relatively evenly. Seems to be rolling pretty good. Gonna stretch it a little bit as I go. And looks pretty good. The middle is a little bit thicker. Try to make it even. And what I'm gonna do is now cut this into segments. Kind of like with the biscuits, what I try to do is, I'll put it more in the middle here for you guys so you can see. I try to cut it in half and just keep going in half. So I'll probably make these about 1 inch thick. We'll see how it goes. The ones in the middle always turn out a lot better. And then the ones on the side always looked a little bit deformed, but they all taste good. That's basically what the middle ones look like. I'm just gonna place those on a cookie tray with some parchment paper today. And I'm just gonna keep going. All right, I'll get these all plated or all put on the tray. And then they actually have to rise again. So they're going to do another rise for about an hour, and then I will put them in the oven. So here's what they look like before the second rise. Okay, so these have been rising and they're ready to go in the oven for about 20 minutes on 375. Well, these turned out really well today. Unfortunately, they are so good, the pan leaked a bit of butter on the bottom. If you can hear in the background, my fire alarm is going off, but my kids have eaten half a tray and they're still warm. So,
and they're so good.
Natalie approves. All right, that's it for today.
It's so delicious. I just want to eat that one, but my mom says it's for my dad.
Here's the real life. The butter boiled over, and now the house is filled with smoke, and the fire alarms are going off. Not quite how I planned it, but that's real life.